a.m. Are you ready? Are you ready for a learning cram? Yep, this is going to be a learning cram, guys. It's going to be a really quick learning cram tonight. Let me have a little drink here. Clear my throat. I wasn't really planning on doing these charts tonight, but things have to happen, right? Crossroads happen, and when the Father says, I need you to show everybody this, I have to show everybody this. It's plain simple, okay? When we look at an astrological chart, we know the 12 houses, okay? The first house belongs to Mars. The second house belongs to Venus. The third house belongs to Mercury. The fourth house belongs to the moon. The fifth house belongs to the sun. The sixth house belongs to Mercury again. The seventh house belongs to Saturn and Venus. The eighth house belongs to Mars and Scorpio. The ninth house belongs to Jupiter. The 10th house belongs to Saturn. 11th house belongs to Uranus. And the 12th house belongs to Neptune. Alright, now that we've got that finished, we have to look at how much the Father is showing us that He is absolutely watching. Alright? Do you capiche? Do you concur? For sure I do, my fine sir, right? Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is what we're going to show you today. We're going to show you the worship of Mars. In my most recent video, I had a nice scrolling index of all the keywords I've been able to come across through all my nomenclature on the rulerships of Mars and Aries, okay? So when you look at these attack, when we think about the word attack, we have to associate that on Mars, okay? I've got these charts before us here. And it's for the capital of Yemen, okay? And I've gone high noon because I'm pretty certain the authorities would know that the soldiers, the warriors, the terrorist people, the attackers, right? Look, it's very simple. I'm going to go right through it. Very simple. We have to look at the charts here. I have the dates, and over here on Wikipedia, we have a chronological order. I've set all the charts for noon. They're in the names of the charts. The names of the ships for the charts are just like Galaxy Leader. The first one is Galaxy Leader. We got to think about that, okay? And for this podcast, we have to look at the situation here. We have to put the sun first, right? And where do we find the sun for the very first attack? On November 19th, but at 26 degrees Scorpio. That's trine my natal moon, folks. And then there's Mars in Scorpio. And then we have Saturn in Pisces in the first house, the house ruled by Mars. And then Neptune on the cusp of the second house. And Neptune being the sea, and look where Jupiter is. Jupiter is in that third house of finance, right? That third house of trading. A Gemini house. And look where Uranus is. Uranus is in that. We have like mass disruption, right? That's what we're having now. Now when we look through the charts, when we scroll through the charts, we have to remember when the Sun and Mars are in the ninth house, that they are in the ninth house. For that day, they are in the ninth house of Jupiter, right? So we're seeing the dark side of Jupiter. There's the positive side of Jupiter going on just as much as the dark side of Jupiter. There's nothing we can do about it. And disruption is disruption. That's what happens. When we look at this sort of stuff, right? When we look at, most importantly, we see a third house, Jupiter and Uranus opposing Mars, Sun, and Ceres in the ninth house on the cusp of of Capricorn, right on the 10th on the midhaven here. And look what it is. It's Scorpio that wants to be. It's Scorpio that wants to be this, basically the ascendant of the 10th house. I mean, look at that 10th house thing, eh? And in Sagittarius, look, it's so funny how the Father has lined this up for us to look at, because here we would have 2932 degrees, wants to be thinking about that Sagittarius rising, not the rising, but ascending over the 10th house of Capricorn, with Mercury there at 13 degrees. Howsoever he's trying my natal Jupiter. I mean, I don't know why it always works this way, but it does. I mean, and here we go, folks. We'll scroll through the charts here, and as you keep on looking, I mean, look where Saturn is. I mean, he's there in Pisces. Boundaries are dissolved, but he's when boundaries are dissolved, you got to think about the what? All the mayhem of Mars and that rules that first house. I mean, you look at everything that Mars rules. You look at everything that Mars rules, and then you mix it with Saturn and Neptune in that first house of Mars, and then you have not only a Pisces overlap, but an Aquarius overlap too, bringing out the Uranus. So here we have so many things happening just in the first house at 12 o'clock, right? It's the Father's high noon, right? I mean, he's right there in the 9th house on the cusp of the 10th house, right? That's where he is. I mean, this is how the most of the attacks for this December month, which is basically ruled by Jupiter. It's a Jupiter month, right? It's a Jupiter house that we're moving through, and we have to constantly look at the situations and the outcomes and everything, but most importantly, to be able to look at what is happening in the first house and at 9th house and 10th house. And then when we look for the Martian houses, I mean, this is the Martian house, Neptune. The Martian house and Neptune. I mean, it's war with with a mix of ocean and ships, right? And Jupiter is in that second house. I mean, Jupiter, as I said, this shows us quite clearly how, even with retrogrades that we have going on here with December, with the actual retrogrades, it's so clear and easy to, when we know the keywords that I presented just in one sign, and with just a little bit of jabber about some basic symbolisms that goes along with Pisces on the ascendant. I mean, it's so crazy here, because when I look at this chart, it's like, here in this chart for December 12th, which would have been like the first day of Christmas. Here, Juno is actually conjunct my natal Pluto and it's right here. I mean, my natal Pluto is 18 degrees. I mean, when you look at this chart, I mean, then we go to the 13th, and there it is again. You can see how the Earth is shifting here when you go back and forth. There's the 13th. And then go back to 12, 7, see 1 degree. The Earth is actually shifting her weight. And then we have the 20th here, the 21st, but we see the whole picture. I mean, the center of the world is Yemen right now, right? I mean, that's high noon there, and we can see what the plays are happening in these charts, like this one right here, Pluto and the Moon, both in Capricorn, this is the 11th house, though, a Capricorn overlap, and then knowing that Uranus rules that 11th house, it's that house of community, but it's also that house of disruption. And once again, we have to look at how Uranus is actually trying these planets from from the second house of worth and values. It's very simple, folks. And then finally, I didn't want to go. There's a whole bunch of tax here. I didn't want to draw up just to try to cut as much redundancy. But if you go through the charts and you look what the planets are doing, and you can understand, like, here we are, St. Nicholas. I mean, the last entry here for this Wikipedia page that I have for you, you have this hijack thing case scenario. And it's St. Nicholas, right? And the ship belongs to Greece, where St. Nick is from. And here we have, I mean, I guarantee you put this chart against my St. Nicholas chart and my one video that I have, Christ, connecting the dots with Christ, St. Nicholas, and me. I guarantee you all this will line right up to that chart. Guarantee it. I mean, look at you, Juno. Juno, through this whole entire period, Juno, one-on-one affairs, basically, on Earth. We could look at this whole entire 21-degree mark, right, on Virgo. And what is that? That is absolutely trine Uranus in Taurus. Jupiter's in the first house. Look at Mars in the last decan. Aries in the last decan is on top of that first house, ruled by Mars. And this is the funny part of it, guys. This look at the sextile to Pallas Athena, and Pallas Athena right now is on top of my natal Neptune, and then Juno is on top of my natal Uranus, and here is Sun. Here is Ra at 20 degrees. So look at the aspects you have going with the sextiles, right? I mean, holy cow, sextilehood. And it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal with this, how these energies are actually working here. But you can see the highlight. And now that we get to the January 11th, we can see how much the midheaven has changed. And Mars is still there hanging out in Jupiter's house. There's Mercury too, who has come out of retrograde. And then we got the moon coming up on a new moon case scenario with Capricorn. New moon Capricorn coming up super quick. Just degrees away. And then we have them meeting up with Pluto in this 10th house of Saturn, right? This is the midheaven. So we can see, folks, I mean, we can have a much clearer sight on astrology, much easier. Because look at Jupiter and Uranus highlighting what Mars is all about. That's what they do. These two actually influence. I mean, when we look at this chart, Uranus and Jupiter are basically working together, amplifying that Martian energy. They're there. They're mixing it up with this Martian energy here, right? Abundance of Mars. You know, we can look at the attack on Yemen. It directly followed this most recent hijack. You can look at what's happened here, and to know that the U.S. has a ascendant that is a Sagittarius ascendant, and then a solar rulership of the moon, right? You know, being at Cancer, July 4th date. And here we have the moon hanging out in its partnership house of, you know, with a earthly Capricorn, with a native Capricorn overlap in a 10th house. I mean, this is, guys, in all honesty, for the Father to give me these charts, I wasn't even planning on it. It just absolutely hit me like a lightning bolt again. And once again, all these charts are lining right up to me. You know, I can't even believe this right here, especially with Saturn opposed my natal 5th house. Look at Saturn right here. Saturn right here is at 4 degrees. And Saturn is opposed my natal 5th house cusp of creativity in the sun, the father, right? This is what Saturn's doing. Saturn's opposing it. Look at this. And look what the father's bringing to my eye, right? As being Johnny Eyespy, as a Gemini ascendant, you know, at 1.55 degrees. I am here only because I've been meant to give this podcast in the disarray that it is, but also in the clarity that you'll see with these attacks and how much the father is having people that are honest and fair write things down when dismay and despair decide to rule the air and have no care. We want your fare and your share, right? This is piracy, folks. This is all piracy right here. When you look at this, big time. When you look at all these ships and what has happened, I mean, it's Galaxy Leader, attack type piracy. Started all off in that 19th when we go back up and we can see that degree of the sun. This is why the father always comes first. He's illuminating Scorpio. He's illuminating what Mars, when the father moves through that ninth house, he's moving through a ninth house, but ninth house, which gets him to illuminate that Jupiter energy that Mars is taking advantage of in that ninth house on this day of Scorpio, right? The day of Pluto and Mars. And look where Pluto's happening, right? Pluto's in that 12th house. It was ruled by Neptune. Look where Moon is. The Moon's in there too. They're being illuminated right there on the cusp. The Moon ruling the brain and how the brain works and everything like this. And then, Mars there on the first cusp, ruling how the shape of the head would be, right? What would the head be experiencing that day? With Saturn and Neptune in that first house ruled by Mars, but with a Uranus overlap. This is like Saturn's got his head up his ass, right? Holy cow. I mean, we have to get our acts together here. We are absolutely picking a fight with Mother Nature on this stuff. The water absolutely has memory to know what the moon and Aquarius is all about. That sign, that house of disruption. It's a whole entire different kind of astrology here, folks. I'm showing you the trends, but I need to show you these actual events. So when we put our charts together for where we are for the future, I'm showing you how to have stronger predictive abilities with your own astrology, your own observations through what I see right here, and I can show you clearly with what Mars is doing in the ninth house of Jupiter, and what's Jupiter doing in that third house of Mercury that rules short distance travel, communications with a keyboard, or down the hall, or making a trade. This is it, a clean trade, right? And look at this retrograde energy. Okay, folks, moving forward, I'm going to let you go. You got the charts here. You can pause and screenshot and what have you. I had to do this quick. I don't have very much time to myself right now, but as I explain myself here, when I'm only on this planet, I've been trained all my life on this planet to have acute observation, right? Acute. Cash drawer, acute observation. I've seen too many thousands of dollars taxed for what I can see through a camera and what I've been trained to see through the stars for my entire life in Canada. There's a reason why the Father has placed me here so far away from these warmongers, these Mars worshippers. And that's what they're doing. They're just worshiping Mars, right? They're putting Mars before the Father. The Father that gives them light. And holy cow, where do our minds go to put so much time and energy into hatred in bloodbaths. I mean, holy cow, that's what this whole entire age has been about. Talk to you soon. Take care. And remember, the Father is always here, and He knows every single hair.